Hello everyone, this is Argent. So I had additionally planned to do all the Fire Emblem games in order, starting with Burning Blade, which is queued up to release Monday, and then go from Burning Blade onwards. So we do Burning Blade, but I might just say a little something about Sacred Stones, but then I was kind of eager to move on to Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn and Awakening and the others. And I was eventually going to get to Fire Emblem Fates, but I've had some people ask me some questions about Fire Emblem Fates, so I figure I should just do a review of it. Now, I reserve the right to do a reactionary review of it later. I'll probably talk about some aspects of it. If I can think of something a little more in-depth to say, I will. I also reserve the right to do a specific review of Conquest, Birthrights, or Revelations. So I'm just going to, basically I'm going to explain the game. I'm going to say what's different, should you buy it, should you not buy it, in the context of Fire Emblem series. What do I think of it? So I think I said I pre-ordered Fire Emblem Conquest. Fire Emblem, much like the Souls games, is a franchise I just pre-order. As soon as I hear a game's coming out, I just buy it because I'm a fan. So I got Fire Emblem Conquest. Then about halfway through it, I kind of got frustrated, and we'll explain that in a minute. So then I bought Fire Emblem Birthright, and then I finished both of those, and I got Fire Emblem Revelations. Now let's just go over the price for a minute, or let's go over how this works. So you have three campaigns. There's Fire Emblem Conquest, Fire Emblem Birthright, and Fire Emblem Revelations, and they are three different games. They have the same basic gameplay. They have the same unit classes. Well, not exactly. They theoretically have the same unit classes. They have the same graphics. It's basically the same game, just with different chapters, and different characters and a different storyline. Now, to be kind of generous to Nintendo, the kind of the issue a lot of people would have with this is they'd like, well, did they just cut the game into three parts and then sell you the other half of the game as DLC? Now, there's a little truth to this, but by and large, I would say Fire Emblem Conquest and Fire Emblem Birthrights are probably about as long as the GBA ones. They might be a little longer. Conquest or Birthright or Revelations are all about as long as Sacred Stones was. They're not as long as kind of the newer ones. They aren't as long as Path of Radiance or Awakening. But it's not like these aren't short games. These aren't like 5-hour games. Especially since they're Fire Emblem games, they can take a long time. Birthright and Revelation are much longer than Conquest, as we'll get into. So if you're worried that you're going to be buying a $50 game and it's going to be like a $20 DLC pack, that's not true. So if you buy one game for whatever it is, $40, $50, you get the second or third one for half price. So if you get Fire Emblem Conquest, which I did, Fire Emblem Birthright is $25, and then Fire Emblem Revelation is also $25. So I bought all three, so that's $100. Now that sounds like a lot of money, and it is a lot of money, but what you have to understand is I commute 4 hours a day. So for me, that and the three games last me about a month. So it sounds like a lot of money, but I've played a lot of hours on it, and it's Fire Emblem. You got to buy Fire Emblem. I didn't buy any of the other DLC. So that's kind of how it works. Now it's important to note that Fire Emblem Revelations cannot be bought first. It's kind of the third chapter. So kind of the recommended order you play these in is Fire Emblem Fates Birthright, Fire Emblem Fates Conquest, then Fire Emblem Fates Revelations. So let's see, what are the differences between them? Now, first and foremost, you have a different cast of characters. In Revelations, you get all the characters, which is kind of bullshit in my opinion. We'll go over this in a second. I'll talk a bit about them. But yeah, so these are kind of the... actually, this isn't all the characters, but here's some of them. So you get a certain set of characters for Birthright. You get a certain set of characters for... yeah, so you get a different set of characters depending on which one you buy. So now we're going to say which one do you want to buy. Now, I'm gonna probably just do a review. Now that I'm going through this, is because there's a lot of stuff to talk about. I'm just gonna do a reaction review where I talk about the plot a bit more. But basically, the setting of the Fire Emblem Fates is you have two kingdoms. You have Noir. I think it's Noir or Noir. I just call it Noir because it's the Dark Kingdom. And you have Hoshido. I'm not sure what Hoshido means in Japanese. Okay, Hoshido literally means White Knight Kingdom. White with an N. So, yeah. So you have the Kingdom of Light and the Kingdom of Darkness. Now, Noir is based on Europe. You can obviously tell that just from looking at it. So they're European. They're kind of your typical Fire Emblem kingdom. They're kind of a mixture of German and French, I suppose, mostly you could say. Then on the other hand, we have Hoshido, which is exceedingly Japanese. Although, even though it's Japanese, most of the characters still look pretty white. Okay, so you have Noir and you have Hoshido. So Birthright, you play the game as Hoshido, and Conquest, you play the game as Noir. So the basic setting of the world is half the main continent, or about, I guess, a third of the continent, is controlled by Noir. Now, Noir is in a state of perpetual night. It's very rarely day there, and as a result, crops don't really grow. It's a lot colder. It's a lot kind of dark. Well, it's darker. Pretty. It's also a lot more urbanized, a lot more industrialized. They're much more advanced in terms of magic. They're more modern, but they don't have guns or anything like that. But the complete kind of deprivation of their society has made it a highly militaristic, highly expansionist power. Noir is constantly conquering and annexing neighboring countries as kind of an attempt to deal with its permanent shortfalls of food and resources. So it's the Night Kingdom, and it's ruled by the Norian royal family, which is the children here. Then we have Hoshido, which is the Sun Kingdom. And now it's Japanese. Ryoma, the Prince of Hoshido, mentions that Hoshido is extremely wealthy in terms of agriculture. They produce so much food they can't eat it all, which is kind of in one of the endings. If things work out, then Hoshido starts donating, selling its extra food to Noir to deal with its food shortages, kind of eliminating the need for Noir to expand constantly. So Hoshido's extremely wealthy. It's not as developed. It's extremely traditional in contrast to the more kind of, I guess you could say, progressive or more kind of future-oriented Noir. Like kind of a late medieval Japanese society, honor is extremely important. Family is extremely important. The whole kind of light thing is also their society can afford to be a lot more idealistic. Their society can be a lot more kind of compassionate, etc. They're still strict, but in Noir, it's dog eats dog, not necessarily because the people are cruel, but just because of the near constant deprivation they live in. Now, Noir is ruled by the Mad King Garen, who's kind of your stereotypical Fire Emblem Mad King, who is obviously being possessed by something, and who worships the apocalyptic god, classic Fire Emblem. Hoshido is ruled by a queen. Now, the queen is the stepmother of the current royals. Now, this is kind of confusing, so let's just try to follow me here. So, the queen of Hoshido is the second wife of the former emperor of Hoshido. So, the emperor of Hoshido married her after his first wife died. His first wife, who is the mother of all of the Hoshido royal children except for you. This isn't really a spoiler because it's in the prologue. So she had Ryoma, Takumi, Sakura, and Hinako. So the first mother had those four, and then she died. And then the emperor married Makoto, and she had you, the avatar whose name is Corin. I believe is the normal name that they give you. There's two different names depending on which version of the game you're playing. There's like a Japanese one, and then there's kind of the European one, which is Corin. Or is Corin from the previous game? I don't remember. It's not important. Anyways, so what happened was when you were a little baby in Hoshido, King Garen sent an assassin who kidnapped you, and in the process he killed the king, the emperor of Hoshido. So Mikoto, his wife, became the regent until Ryoma was old enough to become emperor, to become the new king. So he is the crown prince. He is just about come of age, and he becomes king at the end of the game. If you win the game on Birthright, that is the ending. On the other hand, on Conquest, King Garen is attempting to conquer the rest of the world before his death. So you were stolen as a kid, and you were raised as one of the Norian royal family. You were raised the same as the rest of them, although you were kept in a castle to the north, so presumably for your own protection, but just because so Hoshido's ninjas can't steal you back. So what kind of happens early in the game, you go through a tutorial, which is common to all three campaigns, and then you come to a part where the Hoshido and Nori and royal families are fighting on a battlefield. Basically, you start off fighting for Nor, and then you find out how evil Garen is. The rest of your family isn't evil; they're just loyal to their father because he's the king and he's their father. And you kind of get taken back into Hoshido, and you find out about who your real parents are, and you have an identity crisis, and all that stuff happens. And while you're there, you meet Azura, who's the Ninian Liliana kind of wife, kind of the mysterious wife or whatever you want to call her of the game. And you talk to her, and she's the opposite of you. She's a Norian princess who is taken hostage by Hoshido. So she kind of has the opposite perspective of you. You can romance her if you're a male character. If you're a female character, sorry. And so you're faced with your two families, your biological family and the family you were raised with, fighting each other on the battlefield, and you're given a choice. And this is where the campaign comes in. It literally pops up, and it's like, we're going to... do you want to fight with Noir? Do you want to defend Hoshido, or do you want to refuse to take sides? So if you fight with Noir, then that triggers Fire Emblem Conquest. If you defend Hoshido, that triggers Fire Emblem Birthright. And if you pick neither side, you get Revelation. So how do the three campaigns work? Fire Emblem Fates Conquest has no grinding. There are no extra levels to fight. You can do the normal campaign. You can do the between level stuff at your castle, and you can do your the paralogs, which is where you get the children, and you can do a couple invasions, but no grinding. You have to go through the game. You just have to go level. And if you don't level the right characters, if you don't collect enough gold, if you run out of resources, you're fucked. There's nothing you can do. My biggest complaint is I like to get all the support conversations because I like to get all the children because I like the different characters' personalities. And when you have kind of only like 28 chapters, you might not know because you might start a support conversation by accident between two characters. You're like, oh, these two characters are really cute together. But I have been grinding another support conversation, so now I'm going to have to spend at least another 3 chapters to get them up to maximum so they get married. So it's imperative as you're playing Noir to unlock all the children. Because if you unlock all the children, then you get a lot more chapters you can level up, plus the children are good characters and I use them. So there's that. Noir is also very difficult. A lot of the levels don't have more complicated elements to them. Like there's a level where a lot of timed levels, there's defend the location levels, and it's just hard. I play Fire Emblem Awakening on hard casual. That is, the difficulty is hard, but units who die only die for the mission. They come back next level, and I think that's a pretty good difficulty for me, at least. Fire Emblem Fates Conquest I cannot play on hard. I've tried to play it on hard. I can't get through the first, Chapter 11 is, the hardest chapter in the game. I can't get through it on hard. I can barely get through it on normal. I think I got through most of the game once on hard, but it's pretty hard on normal. I'd say it's as hard as Awakening on hard on normal. Birthright, though, is much easier because you can grind. You can grind as much as you want in Birthright. You can also grind as much as you want in Revelations. That's completely unlocked. You can do whatever you want. It makes the game a lot easier. You can go get more gold. You can go get more items. You can go grind support conversations. You can build your perfect team. That's all okay. Plus, the game's just easier, even with no grinding. Fire Emblem Fates Birthright on hard mode is much easier than Conquest on normal. Yeah, that's how big the difficulty is. Because I got Conquest and it kicked my ass, and I was coming off of playing Awakening on hard, so it's not like I'm terrible at these games. I can't play them on Lunatic, obviously, but I'm not bad at Fire Emblem. It's not like I'm just a new person to the series. But yeah, Conquest will kick your ass. Revelation is kind of a combo of the two. You get all the units of both. You get all the buildings of both, etc. And yeah, so which one's better? Revelations is the final chapter. You get to find out all the mysterious shit you didn't find out in the other two. You also get all the characters from both campaigns. But the story itself is kind of lackluster. The story is not as good as either campaign, but you get all the characters and you get all the elements of both campaigns rolled into one. I would say I kind of like Conquest for its difficulty. I think it's a bit hard on normal, and just a lot of it's just kind of cheap. But I like the fact that the level design's a lot more interesting. The story's a little darker. It's a little more serious. I like the Norian characters a lot more. But not being able to grind for me kills replayability. Because when I play a Fire Emblem game, I like to dick around. That's kind of the fun, is just kind of exploring, finding out all the little quirks of the gameplay, and you can't do that in Conquest. So even though I think the campaign's better designed, and I kind of like the story's a bit more kind of morally complex and serious, it's just not as good. So if you're a hardcore fan and you think you're really skilled, I'd get Conquest. If you just are going to get one, I'd say probably get Birthright. There's nothing wrong with the characters in Birthright. I don't like them quite as much, but they're certainly good. There's lots of fun to be had. Birthright is much more. There's not really these random spastic spikes up and down of difficulty. The game's very even. Actually, playing it on hard is a good difficulty. Birthright hard is a lot of fun. It doesn't feel unfair. It feels very, like I said, very even. If you have trouble, you can just go grind a bit. It's a good Fire Emblem game. I think the plot's it's kind of hard to tell. I'd say the plot's a little better in Birthright. The characters are better in Conquest. So what are kind of some of the new features we have? So I'm sorry if some of these screenshots look like shit. The 3DS has good graphics. It just has a low resolution, if that makes sense. So that's what it looks like now. So this is without 3D turned on, obviously. I think it looks pretty good, actually, the battle map. The actual in-battles, which I generally have turned off because I play fast, they look pretty good. Once again, this is shitty resolution, but it's full 3D battles. You also have, of course, full motion video anime cutscenes. Kind of the main, I don't know, I think they look pretty good, actually. The cutscenes look pretty good. So some of the new things you have is you have accessories. You have a castle now, which is kind of like, it's, I guess because Minecraft and all this other stuff is big. So you have a castle, so you can put buildings in your castle. People can invade your castle. You don't actually have to fight them. The computer fights them, and if you win, you get some bonuses. You have manufactories in your castle. You can get farms and mines and stuff, and then you can trade in the resources at the accessory shop to buy stuff. So you can buy all kinds of neat stuff. You can get hats. You can get like shields. It has an effect when you're fighting in other people's castles, but a lot of it just kind of looks good. Like some characters just look good with a beret. Some characters look good with a particular helmet or an extra shield or an extra shoulder pauldron or something. Of course, what most people will like about it is in this mode, you can spin the camera around, zoom in on the character, kind of get a better look of what they look like. So that's one of my issues in Fire Emblem is you also have these crappy sprites. You can never tell what they look like. One of the things you can get is the towel if you want to kind of see what a character's body looks like, which is mainly there, of course, for the female characters. So that's pretty neat. Not a bad little feature. So what they took out was the mini game, although it still is in a slimmed down form. If you go to your quarters, you can invite characters to your quarters. Now, originally in the Japanese version, you got to pet them with the stylus, and this has been removed from the game. So instead, what happens is they come to your room and a little cutscene triggers, and you get this kind of neat motion, fully animated kind of anime version of their face, and they'll say something, and then it'll increase your relationship with them for support conversations. Now, I actually really like this feature. They took out the petting part, but you still get to see them. Once you get married, they'll say something romantic to you, like, you don't know how much I love you, or something, and they'll make like a kissing gesture towards you. Now, what I like about it is normally it's hard to tell what the characters actually look like. You have like their portraits, but those don't always really capture it, so it's nice to be able to see like in a much more detail what the character actually kind of appears to be. So I like that. I like that a lot. So it's not a bad feature. It adds a bit of depth to the game. There's the children's system is still there, where if two characters reach S level support, you get their children. So overall, there's a lot of new interesting features. It's not the best storyline of any imagination. It is a lot of fun, though. There's a lot of problems with it, but there's also a lot of good things about it. So I'd say the storyline is kind of lackluster. The characters are as good as ever. If you just want to get one of the three games, I recommend getting Birthright. So that's my review. Sorry it was long and rambling, but I mean it's like 80 hours if you want to get through all three campaigns in any form of completion, or like 60 hours. So I think this is short enough. Anyways, this is Argent. I'll talk to you guys later.